And hello, and welcome to AleksConnects Creative Sandbox. My name is Alex, and let's continue our Fanart project, Angry Birds vs Transformers. Yep. So, let's open everything. So let's prepare things. So wait a sec, I need to prepare things. So yes, this works. Okay, so today's, as you see, I guess we continuing our stages. Now this is the first time that we actually gone through the 7th stage, finalization, line, final design, and rendering. So finally it's time to actually starting to finish this work or this illustration. It took me a lot of time to go through this, so, and it's not the end. The hardest parts for the most part is just beginning, because as I said before, I have least experience in this stage, but I will do my best. So yeah, let's just make a quick overview what we did so far. So the things that we did was a pretty important things. For the most part, we actually in previous session we prepared for this stage. There's a lot of things to prepare. There were a lot of things to prepare. So first thing that we did is we saved our sketch that we are going to use in our final illustration as the base. The base, no, not like the base, but you get it. Yeah, so also we saved our final value sketch and our final color sketch. Again, these are not like don't have enough information to just color pick it. For the most part, it's just for the sake of understanding the mood, understanding the value, like contrasts, and understand how colors are working in terms of the mood. This is probably the only way, the only reason why I did this. But these two actually we are going to use by color picking them. So for the most part, we're going to use these ones as our local colors and these ones as our local values. Yes, and also to make sure that we are going to not constantly zoom in and zoom out on our super small scale sketch, we created this so-called an awesome looking value range chart, which kind of represents the value ranges for our primary focus, secondary focus, tertiary focus, and additional focus. Yeah, they are not all finished. As you see, we for the most part finished them only for big subjects that are covering a lot of space in our scene, but the rest of the subjects actually didn't cover it. We just depicted for them local values. Their darkest and lightest parts we're going to determine throughout the rendering stages, but for the most part this is super important things to have. Also we just I decided to save this message thing just to basically keep in mind what message we need to portray, what type of mood we need to depict, what type of gesture we need to stick to, and etc. So just basic information, also information about lighting. We already talked about this. So and of course the probably most important thing is the materials. This thing is just basically going to help us to, in a better way, understand what type of materials we're going to use. And for each subject these materials are going to be used for. So yeah, so let's just continue where we left off. So since we did all preparation work almost, we actually didn't finish one thing that we still need to work with, is to translate this perspective, because as you see we have actual perspective. We have how many pivot points? So let's go into here. Yeah, so into our assistant tool, and as you see we have a lot of converging points, 6 of them to be exact. And they're pretty far away from what we actually see, and also we don't want to forget about the one who actually creates this tilt. At the beginning I actually wanted to use this one as a converging point for the third point perspective, but then I kind of decided that right here we're going to use something close to the third point perspective, but right here we're going to disregard this point. Again, come on, how are they properly called? Converging points or pivot points? Because this is something like that I can... Okay, let's just search. Perspective. Because I'm kind of confusing how they're actually pronounced in English. Okay, not pivot points, maybe converging. Converging. Yeah, I think... Oh, vanishing points, that's how. Come on, man. So either converging points or vanishing points. So basically where the lines are actually converging themselves, yes, we are having vanishing points. Actually, I definitely need to write this down to just basically remember it, because this is something that I'm constantly going to forget. Okay. Not here, let's just use our thing. Sticky notes. So vanishing points. Vanishing points. Oh, come on. Give me a second. Let's hope that I am actually going to manage to do a lot of things today. Yep. So yeah, make things clear. Vanishing points. So yeah, we have like 6 vanishing points and 7th one in here, which is not like the permanent one, but still it doesn't affect all our illustration, but it kind of works on its own way. So what we need now is just to basically translate this perspective from the small scale that we have here, because as you see, this is a 200, almost 300 zoom. And of course, if we're going to work with our final illustration, which is, by the way, let's open it. How we would open it? We can't. Yes, let's open it. Let's hope that actually it's open. Will open in here. Yeah. So this is our actual full scale. So as you see right now, we actually on 67, and if we're going into 100, so this is the highest zoom that we could get from it. Because again, I don't want to go too much in details, because for the most part it's just for the web, and I don't think that we need something bigger than 180p or 1080p for the web, or 180p. I don't know how properly call it. Let's call it 1080p. Yeah, so, and we need to translate this perspective in here. Although we kind of already have these lines in here and it's kind of modern enough, but still it would be a good thing to actually know what type of elements of our illustration actually using a particular point. We also don't have information where the horizon line necessarily. We could, by just converging particular lines in the center, figure this out, but I would rather do this in here because I already know their positions, and yep, and just save this as a some type of a PNG. Yeah, so so previously what we did is we actually, I didn't save this one, so we are going to redo this thing. We are going to insert new layer first. This new layer will make sure that, okay, this definitely needs to be on top. This new layer will make sure that I actually copied the wrong one. Let's just delete it. Delete it. Nope. I didn't want this values in here. Let's just create it. I actually need to just final local call values. Insert this new one. Move it in here. Change its opacity to 50 and just make them right. So we just need to get rid of the blur in order to properly position them. Okay, this is the proper way. The reason why we need to do this is we need to make sure that we're going to properly crop this part, because it's important for the perspective. I kind of forget about perspective previously, so, and also it didn't work because if we're going to crop this one, perspective point that we created from here is just going to shift somewhere in here. So that's why we kind of need to do this separately. Separately save our sketches. So yeah, in previous session I separately saved these sketches, and they are actually the same. So as you see, by changing them, there's no shifting from neither sides. So in order to maintain this no shift thing for the perspective too, we need to make sure that the same placement is going to be for this one. And since we're working with a pretty uncontrolled in terms of the placement canvas, we need to create for something to control this for. So whatever, continue. Okay. Perspective things. So we already have information about two basic convergent points or vanishing points, which is a good thing. For them, we just could create a new layer and just simply zoom as close as possible and try to depict the point. So in our so there's only three vanishing points that are actually visible. The rest actually going to be created by these convergent lines. So let's just create these lines. I think we probably need to create for them a different colors. Yes, let's work with different colors. So now let's just turn on the assistant and make these converging lines that they're going to go on top. And the one that is the furthest one, same for this. Again, we need those in order to understand where this point is actually. I already lost it, where it is. So yeah, right here, this cross. Okay, red we're going to use for our horizon line. So just put our horizon line. Let's hope it actually going to drawn as a horizon line. Actually, let's create it on a separate layer, create it throughout the whole illustration, and then move it in the proper way. Probably could be a little bit easier thing to do. Exactly. Yeah, as we see, our horizon line actually slightly above the end of our plane. But again, this one will actually continue, and there's going to be a ground in here. I actually will design something on the background. This is something that we definitely need to think about designing again. Variant materials in the background. Okay, so now we have horizon line. Now we know where our pivot points are actually placed. So one here, and one here. It's probably better to actually create different colors for them. I don't know. Turned off the assistant. This is a different layer. Let's actually choose the different colors for them too. Assistant tool. Just want to create the thing that these lines are converging. So the sketcher is not visible because it's in here. Yep. So this is the first one. Second one is this one. There's not going to be an easy thing to do. There's a lot of lines in here. Of course, it applies to this one too. I don't think that we should like separate them. No, let's not. I don't think that I'm using this one somewhere on top, so just keep it for the bottom only. Okay, next one is this one. Let's make it this. By the way, why I use this and where I use this. This is interesting. For what? Because when I added this one, I definitely added this vanishing point to create something in here, but what? It's definitely not a part of the table. Forget it, let's just use the thing for the table. Okay, this is this one. We're going to delete extremities, so they're not going to be visible. I hope there's not going to be a mix between these vertical lines and horizontal lines. they are, we could actually change them slightly. Let's change color to probably and make these ones distinctive. Because there's definitely, they need to be separate from Banku. They kind of double colored. It's cool. Good. Okay then. What else? And the last point. No, there's this one again. I don't know why I put this one in here. Maybe it's for the Quintessa. Maybe it's for the, probably it's, yeah, that's for what it is. It's actually for these things. Okay, let's make it orange. It's definitely not present in here. Oh, actually creating it on a different, or whatever, let's make them as one. Oh, come on. Thank you. For the most part, this is actually more than enough to understand where these things are placed. It's just for the sake of knowing when where this pivot point is placed, but since it's visible for us, there's actually not a problem to understand its placement. Huh? This is strange. It's like they actually placed a little bit differently from where it was at the beginning. Because actually this thing goes in here, but for some reason it's not in the same line. I could change something like throughout the painting stages. Actually could lost some things. Yeah, I think perspective needs to be a little bit higher, I guess. Oh, horizon line. Because originally I remember that it was much higher than this small amount of. It's not going to change converging lines, I guess. Yes, I definitely remember that this one was higher. Actually, let's go through the old recordings, or not old recordings, but just recordings. They're relatively old. So, and first time that I actually started to work with a perspective was probably, I don't know what session it was. So let's just quickly go through a couple of things and see. Yeah, it actually was much higher. Probably in the place that I'm actually placing it. So So either the whole illustration was misplaced slightly, or the points themselves just basically dropped down slightly, but they actually have to be at this line. So yeah, this is like 12th recording, and if we're going to see our 12th recording, we actually can see that this part is much higher from this line. Exactly that. Maybe not that high though. Yeah, actually that high. And all points are actually higher. But before placing it, let's just finish with our converging lines, and then we have the last one, and then we will place it. So the only vanishing point that left is this one. Let's figure it out. Color for it is going to be purpley super green. Already can have green. Let's just go with the red one. No, red is already present. Let's go with the purple one. It's actually barely visible. Not good. But kind of visible. So these two converging lines, they're going. Oh, wait a minute, we have this one too. I forgot about this. What this is for. Oh, this one goes for this. Understood. But let's just finish with the... Nope. 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 We need to go from there. From the furthest one. It's almost just a strict line. It actually doesn't work. No. Okay, this is it. This is exactly the line that we need. Good. Yeah, these points are definitely higher than the horizon line. There's no doubt about it. Just go through a couple of more. Right where I actually started. Just looking through the previous recording to figure out if I'm... Because again, perspective for some reason changed. Yeah. So I will keep this one as the example, because as we see this line where this plane actually ends, and our actual horizon line is much higher. So, and unfortunately it's not the case for this one. It's slightly higher. That means that something changed throughout the creating illustration. Either I moved something, or maybe we moved the whole canvas while I did something, who knows. So again, okay, at least I notice it. This is good. Because actually when I created this line, I understood that something was wrong, because as you see, this one goes in here and has to meet in here, but instead it kind of here, which is not the right place to be. Okay. So next, what I wanted, oh yeah, something close to the orange. Let's just go with the yellow. No, let's actually go into the greenish thing. For this pivot point, we need to create converging lines, or two. They're actually super important. Okay, good. The longer these lines, actually, the better it would be for us to measure the proper placement for the pivot points, so we actually could make them till the very end throughout the whole canvas. It could actually like distract us, but I think it will benefit us either way, because we kind of going to use them once to build our new perspective the same way as we made it in here, and then we're just not going to use them that much. That's why we need to properly present them here in order for them to use them. Okay, slightly different. Oh, okay, this works. And also I will make some type of marks that will help us to depict the actual names for them. Like, for instance, this is the furthest one from the right, this is the furthest one from the left, this is the second furthest from the left, and etc. So we just basically need to mark them in order to understand where their placement, because again, we have like super big canvas. We of course could use something like this to understand where they're placed, but we need to actually imagine where these points are placed, vanishing points. Most of the artists not bothering with creating them at all. They're just like imagining, okay, this pivot point is somewhere along the way into the right. And they just suggesting that's something like. Okay, so purple. Oh no, this purple actually wrong one. Yes, it actually connects with this one, which is the wrong way. Not good. Mistake. By the way, let's save. I think we could save. It's kind of important part. We could actually translate perspective differently. It's not the only way to translate perspective, but this is probably the so-called, like, I wouldn't say this is the easiest way, but it's the most logical way to translate perspective, for me at least. I don't know, maybe in time I will come up with something better, but at this point, since I don't have that many experience, I think this is the proper way to establish our pivot points and etc. And the whole perspective, our horizon line, because again, they are going to be important in our final illustration, just because we are going to design a lot of things there. what this is layer. What this layer is. I remember that I created it, but for some reason. Isolate layer. Isolate layer. It's just an empty layer. Okay. Empty layer. No. Unisolate. Combine them. Delete this one. Again, this is the wrong one. This purple thing doesn't have to be here. Pretty junior. No, we don't have anything in here. We could delete it. We're going to use these lines in order to understand where these pivot points actually created. So you see I'm hovering in here, and one of these lines that are moving with the cursor, we are going to align this line with this one, and that way we'll just create a converging point or place a converging point. We will see how it's going to work though. Okay. Vanishing points, come on. So we have only one line that works. This one. This is actually the line that goes all the way in here and meets this point. Now we kind of need to create the same one but for the top. The problem is we're just creating a horizon line instead of it, so it's super hard thing to do actually, because I need to put it in here too. Oh wait a minute, we already have this one. Yeah, so these two are actually here. Forgot about them. These are going exactly at this point. Good. I think that's it when it comes down to unless there's going to be this one. Just need to make sure that this line is just going to be a little bit till the end of the canvas. Yeah, seems that every lines are actually touching the border, which is a good thing. Because the longer these lines, the better is to measure them up. Because if you actually will take a real ruler in the real world and will try to measure these converging lines into a particular point, the longer this line is, the easier for your ruler to actually line this up. That's why it's kind of important. If we're going to make them halfway, cut them, it's not going to be enough information to create this. If we're going to use a ruler, probably it's not going to be a problem, but still. Like built-in digital ruler. Kind of busy. A lot of things happening in here. But at the same time, we have every information that we need. We have lines for this point. We have lines for this point. We have lines for our central point. We have lines for this vanishing point. These. Yeah, the only thing that we need to do is just name them to properly understand them. I think I will name them inside here, because I don't want to save the another layer with their names just in empty spaces we're going to create. So let's start with our red color, which is our horizon line. Could be a little bit more vivid. It's actually not enough. It's not enough contrast. Let's make it more contrasty. Too much. A little bit higher. A little bit lower. The right one. Okay, so this is our, just put colors first and then, okay, this orange one. Then we have, actually we need to start with the green one. Ew. It'd be easier to actually use their placement like this. So this is our horizon line. Yeah, I'm not going to create names for them. Instead, let's just create some type of a visual cue. Okay, so in the center we have a green one, right, almost in the center of the illustration. The orange one, this is the second from the left, first from the left, from the center. This one first from the right. Then we have okay. Then we have deep blue. The thirdest from the right is the purple. And the ones on top is somewhat pink. So this is kind of enough information. So we are actually, it's pretty clear that this is a horizon one. We could create something in the middle to suggest that this is the pivot point in the horizon line. So this is the color for the horizon. this is the central one, this is the first from the left, second from the left, and the furthest one. This is the one on top, again center, first from the left, from the right, second from the right, and this one, and third, and the furthest one is this one. So this is actually much better way to represent them, at least like I understand this better than trying to depict them with words, because it wouldn't work probably. That way I can have all information needed, and I know where these lines are actually placed without confusing them. Again, let's check. So yeah, this one goes on top, this one is this, this one is this, green one is this, salad is this, salad, what? And this one is the furthest one, these three in here, and it goes right away up here. Good. So yeah, it kind of took us a lot of time, at least me, but good thing that we kind of created, which is a good thing. So now let's just go back with our value. No, not value, but this one. I think this one is enough. Just call it perspective translation. Save, and then the rest. The next thing that we need to do is to just put it a little bit higher. Oh, actually, let's, by the way, create a separate layer, put a sketch up, get rid of the value things. Yeah, turned off the assistant and actually try to converge the actual lines from here, because you're kind of interested where they're going to go. So yeah, when you're working, like when you're creating these lines, that's where the longer a line is, the easier to understand where these lines is converging. That's why we had to go through the full length. Probably somewhere in here. What the heck? It actually doesn't work. Oh yeah, because I actually used different lines to create this one. Or not. Don't tell me that I messed up with the perspective. And this is the point where we need to actually move it. Not that high. So yeah, this is the actual place. Right, this right here. And again, it's not going to change these lines. For the most part, they're just not going to fit our particular lines, but it doesn't matter. The only reason why we actually created these lines is to understand where the vanishing points are. So that's it. To recreate this perspective in our final illustration, in our full scale illustration. Again, this is something that I think we like. It's probably seem excessive, but again, I want to know what I'm doing, and I don't want to end up with a lot of problems in my final illustration when I'm going to add new designs. For instance, I'm going to add a lot of new designs almost everywhere. So we're going to add, like, we're going to create like actual designs for these robots, and we actually statues. We need to make sure that we know where that they are going to fit proper perspective with every single piece of their design, and for that I need to understand where actual horizon line is, where every pivot point is, to control it. I rather will have it than not to have it. Like, it's not going to take me that much time. Like, okay, well, probably because I'm doing this for the first time, of course it's taking me a long time, but the more I'm going to do this, the faster I'm going to deal with this. And to create these things, okay, you will spend half an hour to do this, but it will benefit you throughout your 20 plus hours of rendering, or even more. I actually don't know how long I'm going to render, probably a lot. Because again, if I would have experience in rendering, it probably would be much faster, but since I'm don't have that much experience in rendering. I rendered things, but I didn't render things like from the beginning without things. So the closest things to render that could actually somehow say what I can do in terms of the rendering, at least without using a reference. The closest thing is this one. I'll already show you this one. So yeah, this is the closest how I actually got to rendering. Oh, come on. This is the previous thing that I did for Fanart. And this was just done without any references, just like I sat and I draw this or painted it by feel. And again, this was a, how do I properly call it? They don't want to work. So yeah, this was a template that we had to work with. Again, I showed this at the beginning and probably somewhere in the middle, but this is the only way how I could like say how I could render without anything. Like, pretty rusty. This is probably my first painting in a year. Was the first painting in a year, or probably even more. Before that, the only thing that I did is just like value studies, or that's it, like a couple of years ago. So the only thing that I have is just knowledge, and like strictly on knowledge I'm doing this, and that's why I'm not sure how many hours I'm going to spend on render. I don't know, I probably will spend a lot of times on things that probably we could do much faster. For instance, even for this one, I think I spent a lot of time polishing it more than just painting it, because again, putting the base form, it's not that hard. but the polishing is something that will take you time. And the problem is I didn't necessarily understood the actual form for this. I actually just experimented with it and went rogue, I would say. It was not planned, I didn't have any story for it, it's just like this was created by itself. I just followed the cues that were presented. And again, this is actually, I completely forgot about post effects, so this one doesn't look that, I'd say, I don't know, it's not this piece just basically doesn't stand out because it doesn't I didn't spend time on post-processing, although I should. But again, ideally after post-processing it would probably look a little bit better. There's pretty bad contrast in here overall. If we actually go into put it into a right here and make it black and white, rescale. So yeah, as we see, it's not that like clear of the contrast, so I could actually make this one either darker, all this area darker, or this area a little bit lighter. But again, I went with the fact that this is some kind of a statue and it has to be somewhat, I don't know, clay-like feel. That's why everything like this was kind of a choice. And also this is probably my first time that I actually tried to work with the different values for one piece, because the last time that I tried to create something on my own, I created everything with almost the same value, because I kind of didn't thought about that we need to create different values. I don't know. I was super inexperienced at that time. I didn't even had the proper understanding of things. I had like pieces of knowledge, but I didn't put these pieces together yet. That's probably maybe 3 years ago, I don't know. I probably could show you, why not, since this is kind of a strange session either way. Where they are. So my old projects. This was actually done for the contest. This is the last contest that I participated in. This contest was in Russia, like on Russian social media. VK, VKontakte. Hope I will find it. It's not current projects, it's in old projects, just projects. Trying to find it. Because again, I don't have any work to show for the most part, because I didn't posted anything on social medias and things that the only thing that I have is just my sketchbooks. This is the only place that you can see how I worked on my craft. So yeah, this is it. The results. So this is basically the only thing that I created. Like a long time ago. I don't know, maybe we could even see the actual date. Where it took place, when it took place. At the end of 2015, probably, yeah, a couple of years ago. So when I created this one, I super like, there's a couple of things in Russian, of course, because again, this is for the Russian contest. So for the most part, when I created this one, we had only 1 day time to create this. So pretty limited time to make this thing. And like 1 day, 1 concept. And this is some type of a marathon. We had to go through, or either each day one concept, or every 2 days 1 concept. I don't remember actually, but something like this. So basically, I tried this one, and this is the first thing that I created. This is the second thing that I created, and I spent a lot of time on these things. Again, don't mind it's everything in Russian, but like whatever. So this is the 3rd time, and the harder it go, like this is my old so-called, I don't know, signature, which I will definitely change, already changed. I'm going to actually go with the digital signature, because I don't have like the actual artistic signature, unfortunately. So yeah, this was the 4th one, just basically going with the flow. Again, I didn't use any knowledge like directly for this one. I didn't build a perspective, I just draw everything by eye. This was the first problem, especially for this one, it's super obvious. This is my first try of creating environments, and it looks awful. I tried to do something quick. I didn't have enough experience to do this quick. My process was just doesn't build enough, and these things are kind of look decent when you're going to compare them like in terms of the colors, but I will show you how they actually look in values, and you will see what I mean by the fact that they awful in values. That's what I wanted to say you, that I didn't thought about the value separation at that time that much. So yeah, this is just basically the whole thing. So yeah, and now we will see them in values only. They actually look super awful in values only, because they use limited values, and that's what I talked about. So as you see, for the most part, these things are using the same values. Like, if we're going to use a color picker, there's no value separations for the most part, because at that point, for some reason, like, I was too I don't know. So basically, I was in the idea that I need to create things fast. I didn't thought about value necessarily, and I just right away worked with the color. And turns out, like, when I actually made this one black and white, I understood, oh come on man, I didn't use like value separations at all. So there's no so-called contrast. I could create different contrast for the head from the costume itself. I could create different contrasts for these things, but as you see, for the most part, they are pretty similar. And the difference in contrast, for the most part, just created with the shadow areas. That's it. Well, this was a first mistake. I actually did the same in here, but right here I actually kind of created slight definition, like the slight separation in values. Right here, for the most part, we have the same values, which is again a problem. So for the most part, if you have problems with your illustration, it's definitely values. That's why values are so important, and that's why we actually spend a lot of time working with them. This is actually the first thing that actually looks pretty good without colors, because this was the first time that I actually understand my mistake like better, and then I tried to go with different values. And that was actually pretty cool, because this one looks good even in, or decent at least, even in black and white. As for these are look awful. They're just flat. If we're going to squint, we lose all details. If we're going to squint for this, we're almost losing all details. If we're going to squint for this, it's just a silhouette. But for this one, if we're going to squint, we're still going to see all different values. That's what I like talking about. So for this, yes, I kind of kept it slightly different in values, but still they're kind of the same. And of course for this one, it's just the same. Similar values for everything. The only difference in values in here is just because there's some type of a atmospheric perspective, because whatever is in atmosphere just drops in value. That's it. This is the only way why I did this, but for the most part, again, the same values. And of course this one, I don't know, for the most part this is just the same values. The reason why they look differently, because again, shadows, but for the most part the same values. So as you see, like, that's what I meant. Like, if things are looking decent in color, it doesn't mean that they're good in values. Like, in values they're actually awful. Again, this is final thing with colors, and actually this one looks better in just values than with colors. I don't know, at least it's for me. So yeah, and this is like actually the only thing that I could show you in terms of like what I did in recent years, because again, I didn't paint and created like finished work necessarily. This is the thing that I kind of don't like about my journey, that I didn't produce that many things, and it's kind of bugging me a lot. But I just decide to, whatever. So yeah, and that's why when I created this one, I tried to establish, no, let's just put this one here. And that's why when I created this one, I tried to work with values now. So like, I actually tried, okay, I need to consider the fact that we are going to use different value range, different values, but I didn't thought about like actual value range. Just basically went, and it's still pretty flat. Ideally, I could add more contrast. I could make this one a little bit lighter. I could make this one a little bit lighter. I could make the clouds actually a little bit probably lighter, and this so-called ice cream cone suggestion a little bit. Again, there's a lot of things that I don't like about this, and I definitely should work on it a little bit more, but I kind of was pretty close to deadline or over deadline already, and I just had to upload it. So yeah, so this is just the most recent work that I did, like right before starting streaming, probably a couple of weeks before starting streaming, from almost 2 years hiatus without painting like anything. Again, this is the gap between what I showed you previously with these concepts and with this one. And what I'm doing now is just basically what I'm doing after this DeviantArt thing for 17th birthday. So yeah, I will take a quick break, and after this break we will continue to finally put this one into our final full-scale illustration. Save this one, and that's kind of it. Yeah, so yeah, see you in a bit after a quick break. And I'm back. Yeah, so, and by the way, again, I said a lot of things that I did wrong with my previous like work, and also, as you probably saw, I didn't had any suggestion of materials, like almost at all. So especially with those concepts. So concepts, I didn't use materials like at all. I just basically forgot about them. Not forgot about them. I didn't have time to actually work with materials because it requires a lot of work. And as you saw, a lot of things with materials. Didn't have a lot of practice, and I couldn't just paint them and draw them. So. And again, the most problem, like the worst problem was that I didn't use references that much, unfortunately. So after these small things, I just basically decided, okay, screw it. We need to use references when we need them to analyze them, and we need to go through this process properly. And by properly, I mean every step needs to be taken in order to make quality work. So let's just continue. So we need to translate this one into our illustration, and also then we need to recreate perspective for this one. So I think this is going to be throughout the session, because it's not going to be super fast thing to do. So we have everything that we need. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the thing that we copied before, which this one, our final thing. We're going to select opaque, because it has the exact thing that we need to cut or crop, and then just use our crop tool. That's kind of it, and then just crop it, get rid of what we don't need, keep only things that we need. Actually, we need to get rid of everything. I'm not going to save this one, so it's not necessarily to. So yeah, only one layer. We actually could isolate it, but I don't know if we're isolate layer, if it's going to save it as isolated layer or not. This is something that I kind of don't know yet. Okay, good. And then we are saving it or exporting it as PNG, and let's call it a perspective. I'm just going to copy this one. Don't save it, man. They're on spelling and translation. Okay, save, PNG, yes. And let's just check this out. So there's almost no materials even here. So if you're going to see, there's barely materials present. Like right here, I actually tried to depict some type of a rust. But nope. And like, I don't know. Right here I tried to implement some materials, but in previous things there's no material presence. The only like material presence that there were present in there is just for the glass, some kind of a glass look or plastic look. But on that. By the way, I had like the reference folder, but unfortunately I didn't use it like almost at all for this one. I searched through a couple of those, but decided that I'm too lazy to use them. Which is the bad thing. We have to use things if we... Okay, let's just find the previous thing. Yeah, we need this one. So now we have this perspective thing. Let's add it to our... Let's deselect and edit it in here, in our sketch thing. Oh, this is going to be interesting because we already transformed it. Let's just get rid of the transform mask because try to place it. Oh, as a new layer. So it actually placed it right where we need it. Because again, we properly saved it. That's why. Yeah, my voice is kind of down again. So sorry about that. I'm going to super go. Okay, now we have perspective. And now we need to use this perspective to actually create our perspective line. Not lines, but use our assistant tool to add particular perspective of vanishing points in particular places, create our horizon, and etc. So this is the thing that we're going to do. So let's save. Also, we probably don't need this one because I kind of did everything that I wanted to do in here. I previously saved. Yeah, and also there's a lot of layers where... So I'll just close this one. We kind of did everything that we had to do in terms of like preparation. This is not preparation per se, this is actually already the part of the 7th stage. Because ideally we need to set our final perspective on illustration itself. So we kind of stopped working with these sketches and now finally working with our final project. So, okay. Focus, man. Probably let's make it barely visible. But still visible enough. Probably 25-30% would be enough. Let's go with 20 because there's going to be a lot of lines. Aww. Okay, got super distracted. Whew. So yeah, I think this is more than enough, and let's just try to work with... So right now we're actually going to build the same type of perspective that we built before. But now we're actually going to build it on our actual final thingy. So one point is definitely going to be present in here. Oh, wait a minute. It's probably the wrong one. Yes, this is not the thing that we need to use. Not perspective, but actually vanishing points, yeah. just need to create sorry about that, vanishing points. And again, there is a ability to actually save a particular vanishing points. This is something that I probably could deal with, but I don't think that it actually will work on so we could save these vanishing points, for instance, for the future projects to use them, but I probably can't translate from the small scale to the big scale this thing, because it kind of probably remembers the placement. So for instance, if I'm going to recreate those vanishing points in this scale, they're going to be probably created somewhere in here, and we still can't use them because we can't choose all of them and place them in the proper space. It's much easier to just create new ones. That's kind of why I don't want to go with saving presets for them. It's not going to be easy to properly place them though. I think there's going to be a slight misplacement. And again, you see, like when we are actually zooming out and zooming in, it's kind of changing the positioning. So the hardest thing is going to create vanishing points for the furthest parts. By the way, by just creating them, it's of course not enough. We kind of need to, and I can't go back. Nope, we can't go back. Let's just delete them. I forgot that we actually need to place them properly first. Probably by okay, let's just start to make them from the beginning. So yeah, we need to work with this one. The proper placement. Again, we need to place them around this circle, not around this thing. Okay, and then properly position them with the second slider, not the last one, because this will actually change the which we don't need. Hold shift to okay, good. The same for this one. It's going to be enough. And now we have the range of these lines. Good. Okay. So the next one is going to be this one. I wish I have the ability to create them right in this like lane, because to make them it's not that easy to put them properly in the same line. So these things are going to be in here. Oh. So it's not placed properly, maybe? Actually, it's enough to create one line, because then we have the rest. It's actually slightly out of place. Let's move it a little bit in here. Slightly offset it, but kind of close. Yeah, I think it's enough just to create one line. We don't need to create two of those. So the other we could keep. Okay. Oh yeah, we need at least one line to keep it straight to actually line in with the horizon line. So yeah, for this one too. So the second line actually needs to be aligned right in the horizon line, because we need to make sure that it's going to be properly placed throughout the horizon. Just place them in here. Yep, we need to be in one line. So the first line for the vanishing point is going to work like a understanding where the horizon line is. Like the second one is just going to create all these converging lines. Goodish. Let's save and continue to create. I probably already figured this out earlier, but for some reason I forgot about it again. Experience will give us the opportunity to not forget about things. Since I don't have the placement for this one in here, we'll again first understanding the center for the horizon. Almost. So one line is definitely going to be the horizon line, and now then I only need to figure out where these things are because there's a lot of them. So this thing actually needs to be moved. Exactly that. And this one will be moved to make this orange thing. Again, orange is the second one. Good. So this is why these lines need to be long lines for us to properly depict their placement and perspective. Okay, actually a little bit to the left. Huh. Save. Oh, they're actually not saving. Okay. So, and the next one that we're going to create is the one on top. It's going to be a super hard thing to create her and place her properly, because for that we actually need to use our converging lines. So first is to understand where the center... Oh no, this is something that I didn't create. So we forgot about the center line for our top one. Assuming that it actually kind of right in here. But I guess the only way to figure this out is to create actual it's going to be pretty high. It would be easy if I actually determined the center line. I completely forgot about the center line. So let's just reopen our project and prepare systems folder. I forgot what it is. Game shop. Just quickly see where this line is actually placed. I think it's in the center though. Yeah, so it actually goes right up as a straight line from this point to this point. So it's just enough to create a perpendicular line, and it's going to be our answer. Good. So we don't need to rebuild things, which is a good thing. Just make this straight line in here. Go back in our things and make it straight. It's actually somewhere in here probably. Yeah, a little bit to the left from this line. Although we could kind of place this line a little bit better, but don't think that this is possible. Just keep it like this. No, actually it's in the right place. And then the only thing that we need to do is just move it with holding shift higher and higher and higher. So now we center it, and we need to, by holding shift, place it the proper way on top. Let's try this one. Okay, it's too far. A little bit slow, a little bit lower. So this line, it actually will tell us if we're right or not, or are we wrong. So you see, it needs to go straight, but it kind of goes further. That means that this one needs to be lower. Again, holding shift. No, dragging, holding shift. Actually slightly lower, not that low. Okay, this one kind of works. Almost works. A little bit lower. Slightly lower. Yeah. Because this will actually help us to use this tool, the assistant tool, to actually make our sketch a little bit faster. To create like specific lines and the perspective itself, instead of just making it by this instrument and messing up constantly because it's pretty hard to make it right for the first time. We're just going to use assistant for the perspective. It's going to make things a little bit smoother. Okay, so yeah, a little bit lower. Whoa, what's happening? Oh, yeah, I can't, if I'm going to be zoomed out, I can't go higher. The only way in how is to extend the canvas. We don't need extend canvas, we just need to zoom out. A little bit lower. How about now? Okay, this one works. Now lines are exactly in the place that we need them to be. Although for this part it actually kind of seems like we could go a little bit lower, because it will change the whole perspective. Yeah, actually we could go slightly lower. Okay, I lost my cursor. Where it is? Here it is. Yeah, I think this will work. Hope it's not too... Yeah, perfect. Almost perfecto. Again, I'm making these two lines just line up. The same goes for these. The inner lines line up. And yes. The center line is working, or this one. So we done this one. We done this one. That's actually kind of strange how it... I think it's like we need to place this one a little bit to the left, but the problem is it kind of at the proper place, but still something tells us that it's not. Again, this actually points just for our how do you call them properly? Our chairs. It's not that important as long as it actually stays in the horizon line. We actually could place this one a little bit left to the right. It's not that big of a deal, as long as it just stays in the horizon. So the only thing that we need to care about. The same goes for the table. Actually, it's important, because table it has to be like exactly as we need. So these lines actually need to be super accurate. Are they? They are. Good. How about these? Don't have... This one kind of off, slightly. I don't know where it's off exactly, but it kind of works on top. whatever. Since we already established the higher point, I'm not going to change it. It's like probably in millimeter change, it's not going to be that visible. Okay, so yeah, we created the first 2 points, and now it's the hardest ones that are 3 points or 4 points with this one including. Now is the 2, 3 from the sides. Now let's just establish what points we actually did. So this one is done. This one is done. Horizon is placed. And these are done. And now we need to create these 3. Oh. Okay, going in here. Again, creating a point right here. Make sure that one of lines for this point actually stays in the horizon line. This is the most important thing. Slightly off, a little bit higher, probably in here. A little bit higher. Something like this. Yep. Now it works. Let's extend this with holding shift till the end of the canvas. Maybe even further. Let's just go even here. It's pretty hard to understand where these things are. So, for instance, what this thing is, like what I'm moving now. Okay, these things are close. These things has to be close to. Oh, what the heck? Oh no. I placed the line, the horizon that's up. Nope, it needs to be here. And it needs to go super far. What's happening? Okay, we need to delete it and recreate it because that's super annoying. Apparently we could mess up our created points by holding shift and clicking on them. It kind of places them in different space or in different place. So you see we messed up another one. Just kind of it's not this one probably. And you can say they are kind of the same. Okay, this one was misplaced. I need to be careful with them. So you tell me I spend a lot of time to doing this and I need to redo them because they are not working properly. Because of course, I think they actually created just for the sake of creating horizontal lines and that's it. So we not necessarily need to create these convergent points in the proper place. So the only thing that is important is where these pivot points are actually placed. Kind of the only thing that matters. And where these lines meet, it's kind of don't matter that much. Only for the perspective, I guess. Let's hope I'm not going to mess up them anymore. So, because I don't want to mess them. So again, I need to make this one straight, but if I will, it's just going somewhere that I can't control. I need to make it snap to the center, and it's not. Okay. What this one is, like, come on. It's complete glitch. I guess it's glitched. This one needs to be in here. That actually has to... Whew. Maybe if I will go back, it will be back. Oh no. Okay, this is actually center for the horizon. Yeah, this is the center one. There's a lot of vanishing points. My brain is... It's pretty hard to control them. Like, ideally, you would work with them a little bit differently, I think. This is something, again, that I'm just, like, seeing if I'm going to use it or not. I think I am, because I kind of like how eventually they work, because they actually make my job a little bit easier, but at the same time, as you see, there's problematic to place them properly in some spaces, which kind of could become a problem. So they're not that easy to place. Okay, let's just create a horizon line based on them, and then I will just go to put them in this horizon line, because now we actually have much more pixels to work with, and our center line for the horizon actually going to be pretty good. I actually had to do this right from the beginning. I don't know why I didn't. Okay, kind of in the center. Let's place it right in the center. And then everything that I'm going to create needs to go in this line. And I'm not going to bother about the other things. Just need to find the fastest way to work with them. Yeah, I'm not going to bother about the second line. I'm just going to create it whatever I want, whenever I want. The only thing that is important is to properly place it in here. That's it. Okay. So these lines are here. It means that we need to place one in here and then slightly change the placement. No, it's not going to work. We actually, instead of this, created this one. Yeah. So yeah, this pivot point actually is going to be in here. Good. So again, working with this line. This way you could place them pretty far. And now we have our another pivot point. Yeah, actually it's much faster if I'm not going to consider myself with the second line. If I'm just going to create it for the sake of creating it and then using the central line of the horizon line to actually place them properly. It's kind of, again, a little bit time consuming when you're doing it for the first time, but again, it's not going to be like, next time I will make it, we'll go through it faster. So now we will go to this one, and this one is going to be the last one. I'm definitely not going to manage to make them in 5 minutes, so we're probably going to extend session in 30 minutes more. Let's just do this right away. Do 30. Yep. I already saved this, no? I don't remember. Okay. And now let's continue to place our perspective points. Placing this one here. And again, the only thing that I need to make sure that it's placed right in our horizon. That's kind of it. And then I need to use this one to find angle, or these are for the table, this one's. Place it in a proper place, someone here, and then move this one to place it in a horizon line the proper way. Yep. Okay, I think it's close as possible. Kinda. That's actually pretty far. So now we have lines for the table. This one and this one. So these and these. They're good. And the last is the one on in the right. I actually could manage to finish in 5 minutes. But I guess the rest of the 30 minutes I'm just going to either talk or sum up things. Or maybe we will find out to do something in here definitely, since I already extended it. Can't take it back. Can't take it back. Okay, create another one in here. Make sure that it's right where we need it. In the center, and then either move it with shift like this to just separate it from this one. Extend one of those into this line. This one. We're done with this one. Next one is this one. And then just move this one until we get the proper results. Oh, it's actually pretty close. It's more than close. It actually works fine. So yeah, this line is so far away that we're not going to see that. Like, actually not going to, because there's not that big of a canvas to see it. So the only way to see it is to extend canvas. We can't go further in zoom. This is probably the furthest that we could go in terms of zooming. So that means that we are not going to see it. That's why it's a good thing when you're working on planning your perspective in the small scales, because if you're working with a small scale, we are going to see this perspective point or pivot point, vanishing point, without the problems. But right now, okay, this is the maximum level of zooming out. I can zoom out more, so this is actually a limit for Krita, and the only way to pass this limit is to create additional, like, extend canvas. But we don't need to extend canvas, although we could, of course, but it's just going to distract us, because by extending a canvas it's just going to create a either copy of this width in here, or copy of height from the bottom or from the top. This is cool ability, but we don't need this at this point because it works fine. So this line also needs to work, and it works perfectly. Again, I'm working with purple lines now, so aligning these lines to the purple ones. So yeah, works fine. Good. We're actually done with a perspective thing, which is good. We're done with this one and done with this one. Yeah, so we finished our perspective build. Now we don't need these lines. Actually, could get rid of them. That means that we probably could get rid of this one, although I would actually keep these. And the last thing that I'm going to do is to line up all my perspective points to actual horizon line that I established, to make sure that they are all in the proper horizon. Again, I already established the proper horizon for those from that far away from us, but since these were the first that I created without this thing, we need to make them in the proper place. So now all perspective lines are exactly where they are supposed to be. Good. So yeah, now we know, like, we have all pivot points that are used in this illustration. for the most part. Of course, we probably will create additional ones. So let's just go with a quick check. So let's call it our perspective. Let's call it perspective base. I don't know. Boonty boonty boon. Create a layer, and on this new layer we just we can turn off perspective thing. And now let's just try how these things are working. Turn on our assistant. It's actually slightly off. Not slightly, it's actually off. Why? Doesn't have to. So it works fine here. Add in here. But right here it's off, and it's pretty off. Yes, so definitely need to misplace it. Let's just first try all lines that are going to work or not work, and then make the ones that don't work. So these work fine. How about these ones? Work fine. Good. Okay, this one works fine. And also, since we have much more scale, it's going to be easy to actually work with them, because before that we had pretty small scale. That's why we are constantly couldn't choose a proper one. Right now it's more than enough to just zoom in and draw a proper line. And more likely we actually get where we need to be. We actually could keep this one this line art. Why not? I don't think that we need to redraw it every time, since I'm already creating it. Oh, why not keep it? Let's actually consider that this is our final line. I don't know. There's slight mishaps here and there, but for the most part they're kind of working fine. Let's make the sketch a little bit more visible by barely seeing things. So far so good. Good. Again, this process is much smoother when you are already established your perspective on a smaller scale. The rest is when you're actually depicted properly in here. The rest is just again, I probably will create something like this. I definitely will utilize this line in here, because we need to establish a center for it. So the same goes for these guys. Okay, how about this? Now we need to connect this one and this one. That's definitely not going to be an easy thing to do. A lot of converging lines in here. Oh yeah, I forgot that this one actually, it's not going to be exactly at the right place. This is where we're actually going to cheat perspective. Slightly. Yep, as you see, they're not converging properly. Because the line that outside actually connects with the line that inside. When this line actually needs to connect it with it. This is actually could be a pretty good idea to do though. Like, and establish line in center, maybe? I don't know, let's try, why not? Not this one, not this one. Okay, this one. Oh no. Oh yeah. So yeah, the reason why I actually didn't go with this one because and cheated perspective, because first that way we could have the line that we don't need to intersect with the table, and the second we would create a much more distorted thing in here, and I didn't want to do that. So that's why we decided to actually go with just connecting them together with a simple line tool. Kind of cheat perspective, but at the same time we definitely cheated perspective at this point, but that's what I usually mean by controlling things. You're making things your own way, bending the rules. Good. So yeah, it's kind of pretty cool. Like this one actually is going to suggest that there's a slight tilt in here, although there's no tilt in here. It is in here, but it actually a little bit less prominent. But we actually make this tilt a little bit more exaggerated, I'd say, by creating this element of design. It's definitely an interesting thing to depict. Also, we could draw these things too. Why not? They're kind of present in here. So first I'm establishing things that are going to be under our main things, for the most part background and etc. And then, of course, we will go with the rest. Oh, come on, it's unbelievable. Oh, actually, when I created them, I made them from this point. And maybe at this point we already had different perspective, that's why they're actually look different. This is actually cool. Now we're actually going to create them in the proper perspective. Finally. Oh, come on. Yes, exactly that. Yeah, this actually has to go in here, because it converges in here, not in here. Cool. We still have slight problems in here. specifically because of this line. Probably we need to redraw it. Yahoo! Now it's better. Exactly where it's supposed to be. Awesome. So yeah, I think I didn't thought about starting with the sketch, but I guess we're doing it, which is pretty cool. I mean, just establishing main lines that are going to be used. So for these things are actually, as you see, they're slightly different. I definitely will place them in here, but they are going to be a little bit different. What controls the behavior of stylus, actually, or not stylus, but the camera movement when we're drawing? So you saw when we're actually doing this one and we slightly moving, it's not moving the camera, but it should. Maybe zoom. If I'm going to zoom closely and I'm going to move this one, it's supposed to move. No, it's not moving. And I can't move at the same time as I'm painting. So we need to stop painting and then movement. Do movement. These things are actually in the proper place. They are actually in perspective because they further. And there's this line actually pretty close, and it's harder to cheat against something that already creates some type of a direction. If we're going to cheat for them, it's going to be visible. Right here it's not that visible because we could buy that this thing actually that tilted. Since there's no things that tilted in here, even if we were put something that could represent tilt in here, it's still going to work. By the way, what this line is though? What this line is? Oh, this line is actually a line that I just created to properly present the perspective. We actually don't need this line. Get rid of it. So for now, the only perspective that kind of doesn't work, not perspective, but pivot point, is this one. As you see, it needs to be placed slightly to the right. And since these so-called vertical lines are actually going to be created by just line tools, because we decided that we're not going to create this level of distortion in here. It's not going to work. Assuming that this is a chair. Okay. For the most, yeah, let's continue with this one. We got distracted. So yeah, we can't cheat this part because it's pretty close to this line and it will be visible. That's why we are not cheating in here. And I don't want to say like the word cheating, I already said it, but whatever. Let's just use a not cheating, but instead bending the rules. It's pretty hard to figure out where it intersects. Actually, pretty big. It actually as big as this one. Not as, but pretty big. But again, we have different angle from right here. That's kind of understandable. It actually could happen. Yeah, actually could. The only thing, I guess we need to make it slightly smaller. Slightly smaller. Again, this illustration has pretty big scale overall. I mean, not the scale that's of the format, but the scale of the environment. So we're going to see a lot of things, and it's not a close-up, it's actually probably mid-range shot with the focus on our characters. So we're going to see a lot, and that's why one of the reasons why this is the maximum DPI for this work. We don't need to go higher, because if we're going to go higher, we need to zoom, we need to work with details on this level, and it's not something that I wanted to do. Like we're going to spend countless hours on depicting these details. So this is going to be actually the close-up for this illustration. We can't go closer. Just kind of fine. That means that we don't need to create some type of crazy level of details for all these small pieces of whatever. We just could create somewhat suggestions for them, and it's going to look on 100% zoom normally. Yeah, for the most part, we are done with these elements. I think I need to make this one bigger though, because they are similar, but the fact is, they're not supposed to. It's like this thing actually needs to be wider. Erasing using a assistant tool, pretty interesting too, especially for your perspective lens. It's kind of cool. Okay. By the way, why wouldn't I extend them fully? Huh? What the heck? Why? Oh, that's why. The difference is we have this point and this point on top. They slightly actually from different. Okay, this is the proper way. Good. Yeah, and the last thing that we need to do before we are going to end this session is to first probably erase this part. Oh. Make it the right way. Oh, too far. I'm actually not going to draw it at all, because I think I will probably extend this one even further, but kind of works. It's definitely wider than this one. It's wider than this one, so yeah, kind of works. Oh, we can move only if we're going to zoom out in 400. 200 doesn't work. It's actually a pretty cool way to. What? Why doesn't? Oh, because I'm erasing. Come on. And go. Moving. Cool. Okay, we have about 5+ minutes, and the last problem that we need to solve is pretty big problem. By the way, let's try to connect these because I didn't connect them before, although they should, because I slightly changed the position of this wall. It's like this wall actually a little bit bigger, although it's not. Okay, ideally we need to connect these things, but you see they're not connecting. That means that so we have slight strangeness in perspective, because ideally this wall has to be this thick. So yeah, this strange thing in here actually makes things a little bit odd. So this line is supposed to connect with this line with this one somewhere in here. So it's these two, and we're not seeing this. Probably because this perspective. No, I actually used the proper one. Okay, that means that in order to solve this problem, I think we need to extend this one higher and make this some type of a I don't want a tangents, I don't want to create an angle in here, right where the, pretty close to the tangent in here actually. It's not a very good thing. No, I don't think that I could solve this problem somehow, because like let's hope that we're going to make it so dark that we're not going to see it, but the problem is like the visual problem like creates in here. So ideally, if human will see this, he or she will understand, okay, these things are connected on the top or on the bottom. That means that they're supposed to connect on the top too. So yeah, they connect in here, perspective wise. Oh, I probably connected it the wrong way. Yes, I connected them the wrong way. I connected them with this one, but they're supposed to connect with this, no, with the one that goes there, further, just wrong perspective. So definitely need to delete this one and actually figure out how we are going to connect it, because right now it's connected wrong. Confuses. Good thing is that we have the ability to work on this now, because before that we didn't have enough pixelization to work with it. So now we have enough pixels to work with it, so cool. I'm actually digging the fact that now I can find the mistake. I found one mistake in here, which is pretty cool. It actually will make things a little bit more interesting. Also, horizon wise, we definitely need to create a depiction for the horizon in here, because it actually going to be present. It's not going to be that. Yeah, I want to make it barely visible though. And suppose that these lines are converging in the horizon. Not suppose, they actually are. So somewhere in there we're actually going to create a environment. This is something that I'm kind of looking forward to, because we're going to completely design it from scratch. That's why we need to converge these points lightly. Okay, good. This will actually create much more depth, and the overall look of this will definitely change. Yeah, and the last thing that we need to do, we can already pass the time, or we're almost at the end, is to change the direction for this one, because as you see, we're not hitting the proper placement of the table. Or maybe we are, but no, we're actually not. Yeah, we're not. It's like, I don't know, it's super off, especially considering this line. Is that we need to put it right to the right. It's pretty strange though. It's supposed to work. Actual lines are here. Why it's so off, I don't know. Doesn't supposed to be. This line is actually pretty important. It actually works with all our characters for the most part, because I use this line to this pivot point to translate our characters in space. That's why it's super important. Okay, let's try this one. It's strange. If it's right in here, but then it's wrong in here. So why? What the heck with this point? Tell me. Its actual proper place right here, where we establish it. And we were going in here and looking at the lines. They kind of work the right way. Maybe I just messed up when I created this table. I think I just used the different lines because we can't pull it. But this line definitely needs to be, or this pivot point definitely needs to be much to the right, because our main thing for the table, this is this one. It sets the proper direction for the table. So we need to actually use this one as the base, and whatever happens in here happens. So if this one is going to be more apparent, it's good. We could work with this. But this is something that kind of, oh, it actually works. Yeah, slightly to the right. Again, more to the right. Or not. Because I need to remember that, yeah, come on. Yes, I just made it these lines so I beveled the corners. That's why it looks like this. Yeah, it actually kind of works at this point. Pretty good. It's not going to change that much our characters' placement. They still in the same lane. This one actually uses the same perspective. Definitely need to think how to properly utilize it next time. This one uses the same perspective too. Okay, fine. I think at that note we will slowly end the session. There's a lot of things to do, but we got our basic perspective in the full scale, and this is good. So we actually established like the most perspective looking objects in our scene, or subjects in our scene. And I think on that note we will just end, because yeah. So yeah, starting from the next session we will continue to laid in our final perspective. This is going to be super important. So from this one we kind of used everything the same. The only thing that kind of changed at this part, I don't know why, but it definitely needs to be changed, because needed to be changed, because this table first, it has much more tilted line. It actually needs to be even more to the right. But if we're going too far to the right, it's going to change the placement of the characters slightly, so we wouldn't want it. So I just decided to go something in between. It doesn't look the same as here, but it's close enough for us to proceed. It's not going to change positions of our things in here. By the way, we're going to place them properly on the table by using a cross-hatching lines, by determining where a particular things are. But this is going to be done next time, not right now. That way we will understand in which areas of the table we're going to place our accessories. For now, again, the main part is to properly establish the placement of these things. Yes, so I guess that's it. Let's save again, although there's nothing much to save, but kind of saving still. So yeah, good. We basically done the hardest part, in terms of preparation of perspective, because again, after this it's going to be much easier to work with the perspective. And by the way, let's just see how these things are working without assistant things. So yeah, without an assistant it actually looks pretty deep in space. So this is the actual horizon line. Right here we're going to place some type of design some type of, I don't know, environment outside of these gates, which is definitely going to be an interesting thing. And we are going to use this perspective to create this I don't know, some type of a building areas or something. I don't think there's going to be some type of a lane in here, a street lane, but maybe just something, maybe just empty space in here, a couple of mountains, I don't know. Somewhere in here a moon could be placed, or the other visible type of planet. We're going to think about this. So, or just nebula, as I planned at the beginning. So yeah, starting from next session we will continue to work on the proper perspective. We're actually going to check this perspective again. We're going to understand how to properly place these lines. Are they needed or not, or we're just going to get rid of them because this is something that could just basically ruin the whole thing at the same time. Maybe we just need to go with something that will showcase depth and get rid of these connections. All in all, we will think about that. So this is something to definitely think about. Until then, I think on that note we'll end the session. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, have a nice day or night, and see you in the next creative session. Bye bye.